Murtz Jaffer back again with another Big Brother Canada 5 eviction interview. Actually, I think the nickname you gave me the last time was Money Murtz, if you remember. Yes, yes. So it's almost been almost exactly a year, hasn't it? What are you doing sitting here again?
No, it's a trickle effect. I was on the wrong side of the vote last week. The guy that got to stay was Dimitri. There was a 1 in 7 chance of him winning the HOH. Of course, that 1 in 7 chance happened. He put up Dylan and Emily. That was his campaign. Dylan wins the power of veto. Well, I'm basically associated with Dylan and Emily at that point, so that was the next best thing.
Usually when a player comes back, a returning player comes back, you expect them to do better than they did the last time, right? Does it sting a little bit that you didn't do as well as you did the first time you played?
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. Going home early sucks, especially pre-jury. It definitely sucks, but I didn't feel like I did too much to really shoot myself in the foot. It was more of unfortunate events that happened. You know what I mean? I was told the house flipped in week 1. Dylan looked me in the eye and said, there's 9 votes. We're keeping Mark now. I don't know if it was a bluff, but I fell for it for sure. And, like I said, it's a trickle effect, and that's why I'm here today.
I want to talk to you about that first week. A lot went down in that first week. Going in on paper, it seemed like the vets would just stick together. They were just going to cakewalk right to the end. Right. What happened in that first vote? Because I was not expecting a split. I think a lot of people were not expecting the vets to vote differently.
Right. Honestly, I think I might have made more of an emotional decision versus a strategic one. There was a deal placed with me and Mark, with Karen and Cindy, that she was going to keep us safe if they won the HOH, and she definitely didn't hold up on her end of the bargain. So, when I told her, yeah, you know what, I'll vote Mark out, and I learned that the house flipped, I had no problem flipping, no problem at all. But, so did Kevin and Bruno. You know what I mean? I just feel like I was the one that kind of took the hit for this one, which is unfortunate.
Do you think that the vets eating one of their own in the second week is going to come back to bite them?
I hope it does. I truly hope it does. The vets are over. There isn't a vets thing anymore. It's you might have a couple here that are vets and 3 members of a vet there, but I told Cass, Gary, and Ika they need to latch on to Jackie, Dre, and Will. I vouched for both sides of the parties. I was close to both sides, and I said, you guys need to form together when I leave this house because you guys will have the strength and numbers pushing forward. And hopefully they take my advice.
Why aren't the vets voting together? Why?
We really me, Kevin, and Bruno. We had an alliance with Dylan and Mark, right? We tried to keep Mark as much as we could, but Ika and Cass and everybody else, they knew that he was going to be a big player. They wanted to get him out early. When I was told the house flipped, I was like, that's an easy decision. I'll keep the kid no matter what, especially if the votes are there. Well, then comes Arissa on the screen, and for why I vote to 7-6, Mark, you're out the door. I was like, ooh, that's not good, right? So that kind of separated us right off the bat. And then I didn't think it was enough that it could be, gone. It wasn't unrepairable. I felt like we could mend the fence. In week 2, I was asking some of these vets. I had multiple vet meetings. You know what I mean? Are we going to stick together? Because the vets could have kept me inside the house by themselves this week, right? And it didn't work out. So you won't see a vet newbie, distinction anymore.
In my opinion, when I watch the show, I see 2 power duos in the vets. You have Ika and Neda on one side, and then you've got Bruno and Kevin on the other. Do you see the 4 of them working together? And if not, do you see one sort of pair turning on the other?
Yeah, well, I kind of blew up Kevin and Bruno's game before I left. I didn't want to go down, without a fight. I told Gary, Cass, and Ika that if they win the HOH, they have to put up Kevin and Bruno. And I told them why. I told them everything about how we had an alliance early. And I told Dre the same thing, Jackie and Will, you guys have to go against Kevin and Bruno because they're playing low-key, right? They're trying to play like they're not together, but everybody in the house feels like they are. And I just wanted to open their horizons and say, I told them, I was like, if you guys win this HOH, you have to put those 2 up.
Your decision to turn on Dylan, I thought, was also quite interesting. Can you give me a little bit of the thought process behind that? Was there any fear that it might come off as transparent?
Well, no. I try to make it as authentic as possible. I try to make sure that, when I surprised him and I dropped that bomb on him, he couldn't go back and say, oh, wow, I seen that coming, Basically, this is how it all went down. I was guilty by association with Dylan to be a replacement nominee. Even the vets were telling me, like, you're spending too much time with him. Things are looking fishy. I want to get close with the newbie so I can relay messages back to the vets, right? They had my loyalty. But the thing is that everybody was under this big impression that we were like, a final two and this and that. So I had to distinguish myself away from him. You know what I mean? And it was tough because I really liked Dylan. On a personal level, I really liked Dylan. But I had to blow up at him, and I had to make sure that, he didn't know about it. And, his expressions and the way he carried himself after made it very apparent that he didn't see it coming.
Is Dilly Dally the best Alliance name of all time?
I love it personally. Too bad it just didn't work out. Dilly Dally is really nice, yeah.
You threw a lot of grenades, at the veto ceremony. Then you threw another one last night when you called Cindy a snake. Do you regret that? Why did you call her a snake?
Okay, well, this one's an easy question. Week 1, she had a big part of Mark going home, right? Even though there was a deal placed. So that's a snaky move. Week 2, Demetrius comes on the couch with me about 20 minutes before the POV ceremony, and he goes, "Dallas, I'm going to keep you. Keep to your word that you're going to go after Dylan." I said, "Man, this will be the best choice you ever make." 5 minutes later, I catch Dimitri and Cindy in the HOH room, about this far apart, and and after that conversation, Dimitri comes up to me about 5 minutes later. He goes, "Yeah, I talked to a couple people, man. They think it's sketchy. I'm going to have to put you up." She threw me under the bus. She looks like she's so, sweet and innocent, but the girl's playing the game, right? And I didn't want the house to kind of let her slide under the radar because, I asked her multiple times, "Do I have your vote? Do I have your vote?" And she said, "Oh, I'm team bet. I'm team bet." But I knew deep down she was lying right to my face, so I had no problem exposing her and lighting her on fire.
You were evicted unanimously, and not even Cassandra from your previous season voted for you. Does that surprise you at all?
No, not at all. The night before the eviction, I went around the house with pots and pans, banging and screaming. I put all the condiments in the shampoo bottles. Like, I definitely tried to light the house on fire before I left. But the funny thing is, when I woke up, there were still 6 votes that wanted to keep me, right? We knew that I couldn't get a 7th vote between Karen, Dylan, Kevin, and Bruno. They were pushing for me to go out in the first place, right? And I knew Dimitri wasn't going to budge, so I had a private conversation with all 6 of the house guests that were going to keep me. And I said, "Look, don't sabotage your game. Unanimously vote me outside the house. It's best for you guys, and I'll be cheering for you on the outside."
The last time that you played, Tim and Nikki were in there, and you weren't really with them. It's sort of like an advantage that these people had played before on international seasons. This time you went in with the advantage, right? You're the one going in there with a little bit of experience. Does that give you a new appreciation for what Tim and Nikki were able to do last time around?
Well, let's be honest. Nikki was probably the biggest floater of BB Can history, right? She couldn't win a competition to save her life. You know what I mean? That's why they kept her. She would be the perfect person to take to the final 2, because if you're a newbie, like us last year, up against her, well, they're going to give it to the newbie who only played once and, won competitions and done those things. Tim Dormer, well, he was a great player, and how they came in a week later, well, there was already lines in the house. There was divisions, right? So when you throw in 2 new players, people wanted to play with them. They needed their number, right? Do I have an appreciation for it? Yeah, but was there an advantage to me to play this game, 8 versus 8? Well, was it an advantage or was it a disadvantage? Because automatically people see my game. You know what I mean? They look at me as a target. So it's a bittersweet issue on that one.
Who do you think is playing the best game right now?
Kevin and Bruno were doing really well too. I blew them up. Neda, Neda definitely has a blast to the future, so that's very convenient for her. Neda is playing very socially well with everybody. I hope Cass or Ika can pull this one off. Win this game. But if I had to give the nod to somebody, I'd probably give it to Neda.
And who do you blame the most for your eviction?
Who do I blame the most for my eviction? It's hard to say, man. It really is. Like I said, I'm here because of a trickle effect. You know what I mean? One thing led to another. I don't really think I can blame anybody the most. Kevin and Bruno, if they would have just been more vocal, I guess, with saying, "Hey, oh yeah, we're team bets and you have my vote no matter what," I wouldn't have had to light the whole house on fire. I would have been still in there. So maybe I blame those 2 because they couldn't tell the house. They could have been easily my 7th and 8th vote, right? But they didn't, so it is what it is.
If you got to go back and play again for the 3rd time, do you think you'd finally play a little bit more under the radar?
I ain't gonna lie to you, Canada. I am what I am. You know, you can't hide your true character. You know, I'd like to sit here and be like, yeah, I would play a cool, calm game, but it's just not how the nature of the game works out. You know, what you see is what you get. I might not be the most strategic player. I might not be the biggest comp piece, but I definitely will go down as one of the most electrifying players to ever play the game.
And finally, you know, let's say you were on the jury and there was a vet there. Would you automatically vote for that vet to win just because you're vets?
No, because they showed no loyalty to me at all. I'd play, you know, who played the best game. You know what I mean? Who deserves it the most? You know, just because you're a vet, well, you know, maybe if the vet alliance would have worked out, then I would have pledged my allegiance to them for sure. But no, not at all.
Amazing. Dallas, thank you so much. All right.